then we ranched. They had a little farm and a ranch.
Where'd you go to high school?
Reserve High School in Reserve, New Mexico.
What'd you do out of high school?
Well, when I got out of high school, I moved to Eastern New Mexico University, spent a year there, and then transferred to New Mexico State. Graduated from New Mexico State with a degree in animal husbandry and went on with it.
Now, you get out of college, Las Cruces.
Yes, sir.
And then what are you going to do with that
college degree? Found out, I was all excited when I got out of college. I thought, man, I'm going to set the world on fire.
You bet.
First job I took was at Albuquerque, New Mexico at AZ Tire Company, changing tires.
With that college degree?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And, okay, you finally gave that up, I assume.
Well, after I did that a while, I worked at a sale barn that my brother owned in Socorro, New Mexico, and a cow sale barn. And then I'd married a lady from Midland, Texas, so I went to visit her parents, and her dad said, why don't you move down here? And actually what happened was we were unloading a truckload of cattle, and I was going to help him brand them that morning, and his truck driver stepped off the truck and threw him the keys and said, I quit. So he looked at everybody standing there, and he said, does anybody know how to drive this truck? And I said, yes, sir, I know how to drive that truck. And he said, well, get in that truck and go to Victoria, Texas, and bring another load of cattle home tonight because they're sitting down there waiting on you. So that's how I got started driving a cattle truck in West Texas. And go ahead.
You made a lot of money. How'd you make money?
Well,
you can tell me. I won't tell anybody else. A lot of people know how to make money.
It depends on what you call a lot of money.
Well, you're putting a serious amount of money in this campaign, so I assume you have a little bit more than the average.
Not bad for no country kid from Reserve High School.
Absolutely. Driving a truck to Victoria, Texas to pick up some cattle.
Well, that wasn't my truck.
Well, there you come. You come a long ways from that. All right.
Yes, sir.
But you made money in the cattle business?
No, we've made money in the cattle business, but the majority of my money came out of the oil and gas business when I got involved in that, and then I got into the hotel and motel business.
And you still in that business?
Yes, sir.
What hotels and motels are you involved in?
Well, we own two of them in Springerville, Arizona, just mom and pop hotels,
right.
And then one in Clifton, Arizona.
All right, so you put that all together, and you're a successful businessman. How old are you?
I'm 58.
You don't look that.
Well,
you look much younger.
Well, it's
took good care of yourself.
Good, clean living.
Yeah. All right, but I mean, you could have done a lot of other things than get in a race for Congress, and I'm sure you've been involved at least as an observer in politics. And most of us who observe politics don't think much of it. Why would you get in this game? Why would you do that?
That's a good question. I agree with you. I never thought much of politics. I just came to the point that watching what's happening and seeing where our government's taking us and the debt we owe. I think it's high time we sent somebody up there that's actually a businessman instead of a career politician, somebody that understands what signing the bottom right-hand side of that front side of that check is instead of just the back of it. And in my opinion, until we get businessmen up there who actually understand true economics, balancing a checkbook, and have had to get up in the middle of the night worried at 3 o'clock in the morning how they were going to make their banknote payments, then I think that's where I can lend a lot of experience.
How do we put you in a political box? Can we do that? Can we call you a Tea Party candidate, a right-winger, conservative? What would you call yourself?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Libertarian. And I don't care if you're a Mormon, a Catholic, whatever you are. And I'm not going up there looking for a political role. I'm going up there to find the right answers.
You take a look at this Congress, and now over 80% of the American people are not happy with it. They have a disapproval rating higher than it's almost ever been. What's wrong with this Congress?
Well, heck, I'm right in there with 80% that don't approve it. That's why I'm running.
What's wrong with this Congress? Well, Republicans and Democrats. You can't tell me the Republicans are perfect and the Democrats are horrible.
No, not at all.
Or vice versa, for that matter.
Not at all. I think there's problems on both sides, and I think, like I just told you, the biggest problem is the fact that we send them up there, we elect them, they get ingrained, they get into the special interest group financing for them, and they get molded into the system, and they don't have guts enough to step up and say, this, what's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong, and I'm going to vote just because it betters my position, and I'm going to get reelected next time.
Nobody could ask you to say how you'd vote on literally thousands of bills, which you would do if you're elected. But what philosophy guides you through almost any vote you might take? Give me a philosophy of Gary Keeney that would guide you and give people an idea of how you might vote on any issue?
Well, I think the philosophy I live with and work by is, number one, does it make sense? Number two, does it put us in worse shape or better shape? Are we putting ourselves in a position where we're going to bankrupt this country? And I say yes to that at this point based on the people we have up there. And the expenditures have come from both parties. I mean, they've both blown money like it grows on trees. And the problem is your parties aren't unified, and none of them will even walk across the hall with a legitimate way of fixing the problem.
What is the role of government, do you think? What should it be?
Well, government needs to stay the heck out of the way of private enterprise to start with. They're to protect our nation. And that's basically it. Other than that, they need to stay the heck out of the way. We've got too doggone many laws and too many regulations.
What are some regulations that we just simply don't need? Now, we need to regulate health, I would imagine. I mean, you don't want to eat food that's going to kill you, and you probably want to have some regulations on which side of the road to drive on. I assume you agree with some of those things. Sure.
Certainly, but, government is never finds a happy medium on any kind of regulation. Look at the EPA, for example. They get all the way one way, and they never find a happy medium. So then government tends to do that in every aspect. I don't care whether it's the federal, state, county, whether it's the game and fish, whatever it is. I mean, they can never find a happy medium on managing anything.
Talk show people like me try to make things kind of simple because they're not real sophisticated like some of you folks are. And
right.
So we just say simple things and then ask you to respond to them. And then we can, hopefully then people get an idea of who they'd be voting for if they put your name and mark your name on the ballot as the Republicans seek a nomination for Congress in CD1. But if I said Obamacare to you, what do you say?
Well, I think that's a big wreck. That's 1/6 of our economy. That's in the worst part of that whole deal was it was attempted to be just shoved right down our throat. And it's an example of people legislating that don't know a thing about a business. Had they gotten some doctors in there and some people who actually understand medicine and actually understand the impacts before they passed these laws, they could have darn sure done a heck of a lot better.
How would they be able to address the problem of literally millions of Americans had no health insurance and no access to adequate health care? How would you do that?
Well, I'm not certain how you do that, but I can tell you cramming it down everybody's throat and forcing people to lose the policies that they had isn't the right answer.
All right, if I said guns to you, what's your reaction?
Keep them loaded, boys.
Abortion, what do you say?
Well, I'm not in favor of that, not at all. I'm pro-life.
Do you think religious freedoms in this country are threatened?
Yes, sir, I certainly do.
All right, let's take some policies that you can relate to throughout this vast. I've never seen a congressional district like this in my life. I don't even know if there is another one like it.
Well, shoot, it's pretty simple. It's the first one I've ever been in. It's fine.
Well, I know it is, but the simple point is stretches from one end of the state to the other, and nobody knows where the hell it is, and they don't even know whether they live in that congressional district, and it's bizarre the way they drew that. I mean, somebody had to be extremely drunk when they did that. But anyway, don't you find this an extremely difficult congressional district to campaign in because it stretches from hell and gone?
Well, you're going to put a lot of miles on, I can assure you.
I know that.
And the thing of it is this district is unique in that it's so vast, and that therefore there's a lot of issues in it. And what amazes me is everybody's looking for a solution. But the northern part of this district seems to be pretty much the stepchild of the state of Arizona.
Explain that.
Well, all of the money and stuff is down in the valley, and the economics up there, because it's so much federally owned, are nil. It's pretty much died on the vine.
You would, I think, represent over 7 Indian tribes. How would you represent them? What do they need, and how would you be able to help them? Because they'd be coming to you for help.
Well, I think several things in talking to the tribes that I've learned are the fact that, they're looking for ways to increase their economics and become more self-sufficient. They're looking for improvements to their infrastructure, such as their roads, which are in terrible shape. But and I liken that to the management of even federal buildings, for example. We always pass a bond for a brand new building in our school systems here. But what happens is that building should have a useful life of approximately 50 years, but they don't do the maintenance, and pretty soon the deferred maintenance becomes so excessive that they come out and say, well, we can't fix this. It's going to cost too much. The building's only worth this. So we're going to pass a new bond and make you build us another one.
I don't think you'd be sitting here if you hadn't had the education that you were able to experience, not only at New Mexico State, but previous to that. I know you probably would say that was something that was very important to you. I think Arizona's educational system is failing. We're all struggling with one form or another to try to fix it. A lot of people feel we don't fund our schools well enough. A lot of people think Common Core is not the direction we should take. Mm-hmm. Do you think education is broken? And let's just talk about Arizona, because that's where you're running. And if it is, how do we fix it?
Well, I think education's extremely hurting. But I think the initial downfall to education was when they took discipline out of our school systems and prayer out of our school systems. And then, they made it to where a kid could talk back to his teacher, and little Johnny was never wrong. I had two brothers that were teachers. One of them was actually the principal of elementary school, and both of them got out of the school systems just because of that kind of baloney.
Well, how do we fix it?
Well,
what do we do?
Well,
we're not going to put prayer back into schools. The Supreme Court's already ruled on that, and discipline is, now in the courts, and we're fighting over that every step of the way. But just the curriculum, the ability to compete worldwide in a world economy. How do we get Americans to that particular point? Well, they are competitive, where they are the best educated in the world.
Well, when I started this campaign, I didn't know much about Common Core. I didn't know much about it at all. And through the course of the campaign, every time I run into a professor or a school teacher or an elementary teacher or an administrator, I ask their feelings on it. And some of them are positive and say it's fine. Some of them are reluctant to even respond. And some of them say, well, I'm not too high on it because, this or that reason, because it's not being governed by the state. But I think the curriculum itself can be controlled by the states. The testing is, we've got to have a standard so that we enter into an we're in the international market, and we need a standard that makes our graduates competitive.
Well, look me in the eye what you're doing, and tell me why I ought to vote for you. Well, I mean, you want the Republican nomination, but the Republicans want, as much as you do, somebody that can beat Kirkpatrick. Why can you beat her? Why are you the candidate that can take the seat back for the Republican Party? And what are you going to do for me?
Well, as we all know, the primary in this election is going to be won in the South. The predominant number of Republican voters are in the South.
That's all the way from Marana, just north to Maricopa County, right?
Right.
That's where
Pima and Pinal County.
Absolutely.
That's the primary vote.
Right.
And whoever those people vote for is going to be the one that challenges Ann Kirkpatrick.
I agree with you.
The general election is going to be won in Navajo and Apache and Coconino counties. It's going to be won with the Native American vote.
You're going to have to erode her strength on the reservations, are you not?
Well, I'm not sure she's as stout as everybody thinks she is.
Well, that's how she won the last election.
Well,
I mean, I don't know where she is now, but I'm talking about the numbers that she had 2 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So going from one end of this enormous congressional district to another, what is the common theme of what people say to you? What do they say to Gary Keeney? What do they say to you about what they want from their congressman?
Well, first off, the first thing they say is, what's your position on gun rights? Which I'm dang sure packing plenty of rifles around. The second question is, what are you going to do about our economy up here? What do you think we can do to create jobs in this district?
What can we do?
Well, you got 48% of this state is federally managed by the Forest Service. And if you look at those lands, they were multiple use up until about 1973. And in 1973, they passed the Endangered Species Act. And we also had an oil embargo, if you'll recall. Well, we have fixed the oil embargo in this country. We have changed our oil and gas business and have gotten real productive and successful in our production. But we haven't fixed the endangered species problems. And the Endangered Species Act came into effect. There was 100 species. Now there's 1,000. And the problem is the liberal groups passed another law called the Equal Access to Justice Act, which allows those particular groups to sue the federal government and you as a timber company to keep you off of those federal lands and put you out of business. And that's exactly what they've done. They've taken every sawmill out of our mountains under the guise that they were protecting the spotted owl, if you will. And then they've also worked extremely hard to get the cattlemen off. Well, they're keeping the mining from occurring on our federal lands and the exploration for oil and gas on our federal lands. It takes you 18 months now, if you're lucky, to get a drilling permit to drill an oil and gas well on federal lands. And President Obama says that he has stimulated the development of oil and gas and production in this country. If you listen to his State of the Union address, he said, look, I've done so well, and he applied that he was going to impose some kind of a windfall profits tax on oil companies, which was done in the 80s. And bring that money and give it to his buddies that he already lost millions of dollars with in the solar and the wind energy.
Let me ask you, is there a politician that you've known of, read about, or have supported or think of that you really admire? Is there anybody that would be any kind of guide to your move into politics and to go to the Congress of the United States? Is there anyone that you would say, that guy had it right, or this woman had it right?
Well, the guy that's got it right now is Matt Salmon. You know, he's got his act together. And the thing of it is Matt was elected, then got out, got some more experience, and went back. And that experience that he's taken back with him has reaped tons of benefits.
Almost governor of the state, I might add, is too. Very narrow loss as he ran against Janet Napolitano the first time out. 13,000 votes statewide out of millions. That's a pretty close race.
Yes, sir.
What would you ask yourself? I haven't asked you. What do you want people to know about you that I haven't talked about?
Well, I just think that they need to take a look at the candidates. They need to take a look at the candidates, what their underlying motivation is. You know, if you look at Adam Quasman, he's a first-time legislator. He didn't even start his first year, and he had started his goal to run for this seat. And so his lack of experience speaks for itself in the real world. He's an economist. 65% of the economists that graduate from the colleges we send to Washington. Do we need to send another one? And Andy Tobin, you know, was raised in New York City. He's been out here quite a while. And well, I always tell people, you know, while he was riding the subways in New York City and playing in Central Park, I was punching cows in the mountains of our district and catching the school bus, you know, watching lumber trucks and log trucks go by. So I truthfully understand what is going to stimulate jobs in our district. And whether I can get it done or not is a big question. But if nobody's pushing it, and nobody has actually witnessed it, it's not going to happen. And one other thing I'd like for them to look at is, where are you going to get a more well-rounded candidate? One that's actually created jobs in your district, one that's actually ran cattle in your district and still runs cattle, one that's in the hotel and motel business, one that has been in the oil and gas business, so understands mining and minerals and all the EPA issues and all the environmental issues associated with it.
Well, I hope you'll come back often. And by the way, a good chunk of that southern part of your district is in our listening audience, and we have a tremendous number of listeners, Marana and North, and they get to know you by these conversations. And I hope you'll come back and talk about these issues. This campaign's not going to really get underway until Tobin gets out of the House, and the House and the legislature close down.
Well, I'm certainly not going to wait for him. I'm telling you that. I'm on the road every day.
I realize that, and I wouldn't suggest that you would. But I do want you to come back, and
well, thank you.
I'd be glad to ask any question you want me to ask. I just wanted to get to know you because I've heard a lot about you, and people say these things. First, you're outspoken. Second of all, you're not going to dodge any questions. Third, you have a lot of practical experience in life and in business that others don't. So we wanted to get that out. And you have a kind of a pioneer spirit here that really is what Arizona's all about. So let me take Anthony's call here. And Anthony Garricini, Republican candidate for Congress, CD1. Go ahead, Anthony. You got a question or comment? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I I just listened to him earlier say that he thinks the government should stay out of people's way. But then again, he says that he's against abortion. To me, I'm one of these guys. I'm not of a party. I dislike them both, and I vote for who I think is going to do the best job. But if you can stand up there and tell me government needs to get out of people's business, then government needs to get out of people's lives and their business. It shouldn't matter to the government if somebody wants an abortion. Okay, I may find it reprehensible, but I don't think it's my place to make a law like that, or people with gay marriages, or these people that want to take people's guns. The government should just leave people alone. If it's not something you don't want to do, then you don't need to do it, but you shouldn't outlaw it for other people.
All right.
I just really dislike when politicians say that, and then the first thing they do is go right back and say, well, I don't like this, so yeah, government should interfere in this. I don't like this, so government should interfere in that. And I just really dislike that. I don't think that's very honest when a politician stands up and says government should leave people alone, but, we should interfere in this, and that. That's all I got to say.
All right, Anthony, thank you. Adam, you want to respond to that?
Well, Bud, I appreciate your call. I'm not going to say that I'm the perfect guy for everybody, but I'll guarantee I'm a perfect guy for 99% of them, and I'd look forward to meeting you sometime.
All right, Gary, you'll come back, I hope.
Thank you. I'll be happy to.
And I hope you put us on the list when you're speaking. We'll be glad to tell people where you are.
All right.
Here's what we've done for 25 years. We put every candidate on. We put them on as often as we possibly can. I think it's really our responsibility to let you be who you are and let people know what you are. Because I think the biggest mistake we make in politics is electing people we don't know. And we've elected a whole bunch of these people we don't know. We've paid a terrible price for that. So I want people to get to know you. And you can come back anytime, answer the questions of the people that are listening, and to my questions as well, and talk about this campaign, because I think it's a very important campaign. I know you do as well, and we invite you back as often as you can be here.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to it.
It's a pleasure meeting you. Thanks.
My pleasure, sir.
You bet. Gary Keeney's a Republican candidate for Congress and Congressional District Number 1. Bruce Ash, Republican National Committeeman, chair of the RNC Rules Committee, coming up on the John C. Scott Talk Show. Thanks so much for being with us.